Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to paint mixing, needle and nozzles, tips, tricks to get you going so you're not struggling with your paint. I've had loads of messages on the channel about newer brushes, people struggling with them spraying, they're not spraying right, and you go down to the simple message back of, have you checked the nozzle and cleaned it? And then there's a pause and then a message comes back going, well, I didn't have to do it in my other brush sprays absolutely fine, and I've never took the nozzle out of that, didn't realise you had to. And it's simple things like that, beginners just skip over. And it's the main one's cleanliness of the brush, is keep your brush clean. It's a very small needle and nozzle, and you're putting, some of these airbrush paints are way too thick, even though they say airbrush paint, they're way too thick to spray. They really are. You really got to start doing little cocktails and formulas with them to get them out of the brush. So that is a bigger, is cleaning your brush, is make sure you got it clean, the nozzle clean. Now if you've got, because that comment came from someone that's got a Micron and they've got a new Infinity, and they're saying all the Infinity's clogging up. When you look at the Micron nozzle, they're tiny. You've got your outlet where your needle comes through, and the bit that the nozzle screws into, that's where your paint's coming in. And then you've got a tiny little needle, so you've got a lot less backing up in the end of that nozzle. When it's coming out, it's sort of out, you know what I mean? H&S nozzle's deeper and your needle goes into it, and there's a lot more area around that, inside that nozzle, for paint to just start backing up. The minute you get like a dodgy mix, it'll congeal, build up in there, clings to the walls of the nozzle, and then just eventually it slows the brush down. You're pulling back more and more, and you're pulling right back on the trigger. And you've got to remember, you've got to clear that nozzle on how long that nozzle is. If it's caked up, you're now pulling back further, and you're going, well, I ain't getting paint out of my Infinity and I'm pulling right back. Go straight to the nozzle, because as I say, they're all small needle and nozzles, even down to like a 0.5, it's still small. You'll still get them struggling to pump paint out at times on a 0.5. It sounds grainy and you're upping the pressure, you know. So down to paint, the ones we're looking at, I'm going to give you some scenarios of what's happening for you as a beginner as well. We've got a row of paints here. We've got Wicked, Createx new version. I've got Liquitex ink, System 3, which is an ink, FW Inks ink, Bombay ink, Golden Highflow, Airbrush acrylic. They're all acrylics, but you've got some ink, some acrylic. We've got craft paint, we've got ammo, which is like a miniature model painter's paint, Createx illustration, and we've got solvent that you'd spray on a car. Now I can get all of them to work because I've experienced them and sort of know the mixes and think, right, I'm picking this brush up. This is the sort of mix I know I need for these paints. What throws beginners is, and jot these little points down, is when beginners buy their brush, the next port of call is paint, and they look for paint. And they look at the prices of the sets of these airbrush paints, and they're expensive. They're not cheap, they're really not. If you were to go and buy and go into the Wicked range, when you get your reducers and your full set, you're probably tipping, on a good set, you're probably tipping over £100. It's like, it's £100. It's like you've just spent your £100 or £140 on the brush that you was after. Now you got to blow £100 on paint, and it's that, I ain't doing that. This is becoming expensive. I need to get an easel, need to get this. It's like it soon tots up. You will watch YouTube videos of artists and painters, and you will see the paint that they're using. So you'll probably flick onto one YouTube channel and someone's demoing createx illustration. So then you look up createx illustration and you see the sets of it, and it's mind-bogglingly expensive, and it's like, so you buy a bottle of it and you'll buy, like, say, a black or a white, and you'll have a go with it, you'll have a play with it, and then you'll watch something else and you'll see somebody else with a different paint lineup, and it's like, oh, and you go and try a bit of ink, probably because you've watched my channel and they use ink, use a bit of ink. So then you have a bottle of that, then you end up picking up a bottle of golden highflow, then you got some cheap craft paint that you picked up while you was out shopping with your missus, nipped in Hobbycraft and thought, this is only £1, water-based acrylic ink, yeah, I can thin that down. So you have an array of different bottles, singular, next to you, and that you are generating, what you don't realise is you are now generating a mixed palette of colours and a mixed palette of brands of paint that don't like to be intermixed. But you don't know that because you just think, oh, it's water-based acrylic, it's water-based ink. Well, yeah, water-based, it'll mix, surely. And it's that you've got your brush that you've spent a lot of money on, you go to your easel and you grab your paint. One minute you're grabbing illustration in the brush, you're doing this, clicking the lid open, and you're putting that down, then you're going FW ink, yeah, blast through a bit, put a bit of that in. They intermix when they're not supposed to be intermixed, and it all starts to choke up. The brush gets clogged up, all your lids of your 12, 13 pound bottles of paint and inks have all got the lids open. You're more interested in brush ain't spraying, I've got to strip that. See, now you're stripping the brush down that you didn't practice stripping down when you first started, and that's a headache. So you're undoing all that, there's paint everywhere, and it's like, oh, I'll give it a quick clean. Oh, it's not spraying still, chuck a bit of clean. You leave it, you walk away. You come back, because you watched a load of YouTube stuff again, and come back. You've came in, you've sat again for another 30 minutes, and you've watched the video of someone stripping that brush down, and you go, right, put it back together, clean that, right, that's working. You then look at your paint. Oh, I've left all the lids. So then you do that. Clip them down, you're doing this, you're getting the bottle of FW that you've left on the side, and these are an airbrusher's nightmare, believe me they are, because the ink clings to the glass jar and goes round the threads, and it cracks and goes like very shards, and it will just drop straight into your paint. But you don't understand that, you just put the lid on because you're thinking about leaving your lids off. So all that crap paint's gone into your decent bottle of £7 FW inks. You do that with all your bottles, you master cleaning your brush, you then go back to your paints that you've just gone crack with all the lids down and start again. Now you start again with paint, because you've done this a few times. The paint, all the little shards are gone in, now they're coming through your paint, and it's clog, and it's like, oh well, I know how to clean the brush down, so you do that again. And then you go back through that again. So you've done that bit, again, you know that, but you're not thinking about this. And this is what you got to think about first and foremost, is your paint, what you're putting through it. Because you will go round in them circles, even more so if you've got a random selection of paint that you don't know what goes with what. My best advice for you when it comes to paint is buy your brush, have a think about what genre you're going down in airbrushing. You've really got to think about which avenue you're going down, because you're either going to stick to it or you're not. Have a good think of what you're doing, and then buy a decent paint to go down that avenue of airbrushing, or do a real background check of the paint of what it's good for and what you can apply it to. If you get a real good all-rounder that's an airbrush paint that can cover you for all the avenues, it's good to do, because then you can have a play at these other avenues but with that paint line that you've got. So buy a set. It may cost you, but what you do is you buy your set, and you don't have your set at the side of you when you paint. That set you put in storage, and you mix from that set, because you'll instantly do it. You say you're going to createx illustration, you'll have your set at the side of it that you'll be working from. You'll be pouring these out, mixing from them, clipping the lids over, leaving the lids off, closing them up, wrecking your paint that's expensive. So get your set and then go and buy yourself 20 bottles, empty, small, with easy dropper toplets in like that, little dropper tops. Yeah, probably down to, these are like 10 milliliter bottles. Perfect, I've found. Get a set of them, buy yourself a set of ball bearings, which are really cheap. Get your brand new set of paints, put it to one side, and now you're going to mix your working palette. This is your paint that you use with your airbrush. And you're going to mix from your set your colour palette and make a nice little colour palette. And as you mix it, take note of how you made the colour. Write it down. So then you've made a colour. You write it down on how you made it, how many drops of each colour. Put a label on the front, colour, number 2 or number 1, that's your first colour, number 1. Then get a piece of card and you make them. You make swatches like this. So you'll spray on the card that colour, a full pass so it goes opaque, and then a light couple of drop coats over the top so you get another tone. You can probably get 3 or 4 tones out of one tone if you spray it and lay it over. You can get some lighter tones and darker tones out of one mix. So if you do 20 bottles like that out of your set, and then put your set, because out of 20 bottles of mixing you won't lose all that colour, you'll have plenty left. You put that set in a cupboard and you only go to it when you replenish the stock that you use. This will make your paint last a lot longer. You won't contaminate your expensive airbrush paint that you've just spent a lot of money on buying a set. It's good. And if you do crack the lids open, you just mix in colours. You'll be going back to mix that set. So you take a little bit more care of putting your stuff away and storing it, because it's expensive. It's like £14–15 a bottle over in the UK, that is. And it's a big set. So if you do that, it'll make you more efficient. It'll make you better with your paint. You won't have any stress when it comes to paint for your brush, because you've mixed it and you add your diluter to it in your working set of paints. So all of your colours are mixed and diluted so they flow perfect with your brush. That solves your paint issues straight away. The bonus with the swatches is you've now got colour references to your range. So if you go and do a picture, you can hold these up to your reference and go across and do some colour matching. And 9 out of 10, you've got the colours for that portrait. All you're going to be doing is looking at the shades on your swatch. You know that's full opacity, you know that's a few coats, but I need that colour, not a problem. Couple of tints over, dust coats over with that colour, you've got it. And you can just tint over the colours that you've got. And as I say, 9 out of 10, you've got the colours. With the swatches and the paints I've got 50 in my pre-mixed of the FW. And then we've got the custom skin. And I've got like a grayscale section. I'm covered. I've not got to worry. I can just come into the studio, hook a brush up and paint. I'm not going from bottles like, you'll never see me with bottles like this around my easel, because I don't use it for me. I use a working set and put these away. And it will just dial in your paint so much and just make it take so much stress from the beginner. Sitting there's no rush out the starting gate on this. It's kiddie steps at the start. Slow you can go at the start and just home in on these little bits and get things jotted down, and a little notice on your easel or wherever you're painting, and it just says, "Oi, stupid, how's about you clean me and have a picture of your brush?" And you just look up and it just jogs your memory, because you're very gung-ho at the start, and all these paints and shimmers and glitters and candies, and it's like you're like a kid in a sweet shop. We're like that, but we just go gung-ho too quick at it. So keeping your brush clean, absolutely key. And then you've got to dial your paints in. Try not to do too much of a mixed bag if you've got a mixed bag on your easel. You know, because if you're working with this and then you accidentally, because you don't know, you just think water-based acrylic and you drop a bit of FW with it, it goes in the brush, you just see it disappear in that cup and go to the bottom. Ooh, let's go. The minute them two paints go in there and have a little bit of a mix for a couple of minutes, it's like, it's like new. It starts to gloop up. So the first thing you do is like thinner. So then you're adding like probably 40-21 reducer. That's now intermixing with the FW. Don't think it likes it. I've never tried it, but I don't think it will. And then you get this even almighty mess of a mix in your cup. Problems, straight away. Problems. It's what you've done putting it in. You know, you've really got to stop, slow down and think of each process. Once you get them little processes dialed in and you've got a little pattern of doing things and a routine of doing bits, it just makes it a lot easier. It really does. It takes the stress of paint away. It really does. And if you're working on an easel, piece of paper to the side. That's where you test your brush. That's where you test your paint. Dial it in there. So if you've worked on a piece, like a piece of artwork, female portrait, you're rushing around, you've got it to a standard that you're really, really chuffed with as a beginner. It's like, right, I've got to drop some highlights in. So you grab your white paint, you sort of go off the thinking process for a minute, chuck it straight in the brush, you forget to test it, you turn round to give her highlights in the eyes, and you end up making her look like a plasterer's radio, or like she's just starred and she's got the money shot in a porn film. It just, and it's wrecked. And it was them simple checks of dial the white in, because whites and blacks on paints can be a pain to spray. They always can. They're always that awkward one to spray. You got to thin them because they can be very grainy. And if you don't do a test with it and you go, it's so easy to do when you're with an airbrush. It really is. You can be so far in on a piece of artwork. I've done it where I've done like hours on something and just made a silly mistake and gone bang, and I'm thinking, you know, it makes you a better painter when things like that do happen, but it is soul destroying when you've spent 7 hours on something and you're there and it's one thing, it's bang, and then you've got to try and correct it. So then you're trying to get rid of that white paint. It's gone boof, all over, and your colours all, and you go to wipe it. The first thing you do is we all go, oh, and then you just see our face go, and it's like there's a big down the side of it, and it's like, been there, done it. You know, I've done it. So double check, test to the side. Get your paint mixes, test them. Just flow in, because you can always go in. I've done this at times where I've gone in and went woo and backed off and thought no. And I have put a bit of paint down, but I've gone light. Always gone light. If I've picked the wrong colour up or something, and I just go and I go blast to test, and then it's like, oh, stop a minute, let's just go back. Yeah, I can get around that. Instead of going full hog and just going wallop, not testing, and ooh, that's when things happen. You always got a sort of checklist. It's a little checklist. Keep going over your checklist. And when you go with a paint, master it. Master that selection. Make the colours. Make that paint system work for you. And I think that works really well with the decanting across. And don't work from your expensive set and have the lids open at the side, because you'll do that and the paint will get all messy and you'll have problems, and someone will go, you need to filter your paint, and then when you filter it you realise you've got half of your createx is just gluggy at the bottom where it's all bits that are congealed. So just do work to a working set and have a working set of pre-mixed colours thinned for your brush, and you're sorted. You've got all your colours, you've got all your mixing ratios, you've got your swatches, you're dialed in. That's what it's about. You'll get there. So just baby steps, have a good think of what I said. I hope it helps. Drop your comments, tell me your thoughts, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.